Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fueled by Progress, hosted by me, Mark Joseph Szymanski. We have with us in the studio today, Max Novak. How are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely, dude, absolutely. So this is an interesting episode for everybody watching. We're kind of catching up a little bit, Max and I, and it's interesting because Max, to probably like 250,000 people or more, actually, probably that's just your subscriber base on YouTube, is a source and a absolute wealth of knowledge on video editing for music videos, from all the like. And that's something that I'm definitely interested in, but not to the level that Max has the experience in. And but it's kind of funny or coincidental that I've also known Max for quite some time, right? So appreciate you sitting down with me, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess to kind of start off, like, what kind of is the background? We always try to start with that. I know we met just via hockey, I think down at Team Pitt a while back, but kind of like, what's the background? Like, how did you get into everything that you're doing? And just like, where did you all kind of start with the whole come up?
So around my freshman year of college, I was going to CCAC, taking classes there. And then I think I planned on going to Slippery Rock after that. And I started getting into these videos on YouTube, like vlogs. I think that was in like the vlog kind of trendy era. Yeah, for sure. And there was a guy named Justin Escalona, and he made kind of like Casey Neistat style vlogs, but more like college kid themed. And he talked about going to like USC. He talked about, and he would make just like little cinematic stuff with the camera. So that made me want to get a camera, and I think I just got interested from there. And then because editing comes along with any camera related stuff, I started watching YouTube tutorials, and then it kind of just built up into like me making those tutorials.
Right.
So freshman year of college, 2 years later, I think I'm just like recording like little cinematic vlogs and stuff. If you even go back on my channel, you'll be able to see it. But I go to Slippery Rock, I start making these tutorials, and I think one of them just gets like a good amount of views. And I think it was more of like a way to practice it for myself. And I think it's a good way, like if you make tutorials, and it's a good way to like keep that learning instilled in you to like, okay, if I'm making a tutorial this week, then it's kind of like me practicing this without it feel like practicing. It's like a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So was that kind of this throughout your kind of college years in a sense, or how did that kind of continue to go?
Yeah. So the next big push of inspiration for me, I remember I watched a podcast interview. Cole Bennett, do you know who that is? He started Lyrical Lemonade. So there's a large YouTube channel called Lyrical Lemonade, and they create music videos, and it grew from like him just shooting music videos with like up and coming people to like a large following. And I saw his interview and just the process of what he did. It inspired me to like want to do that too. So I wanted to be a music video director. I remember I just hit up one of my friends locally. We started practicing from there, and then it just snowball affected into like I was going into different parts in Pittsburgh, shooting music videos for random people, going into like studios, taking pictures. And it was fun. It was a good experience. It was a good life experience too, because like I'm a pretty introverted person, but it forces you to like go into these uncomfortable places and just spots where you really have to like focus on, okay, I need to do this because this is where I want to be, and it's fun.
Yeah. So do you think that music was music the thing that kind of brought you into just video and editing, and have you? Obviously, you've done some cinema stuff, but like, kind of, what are the things? Is it just music videos and then cinematography, or is it kind of like different, buckets that your projects are fitting into, and how did that kind of evolve so far?
I think that one of the biggest attractions towards cameras and like editing is there's so many different ways you can go with it, So it all kind of ties in because it's all about cinematography, but there's different branches. Like you could make a documentary one day, you could make music videos, you could make films, you could do whatever you want with it. So yeah, I think in terms of like music influence, it was more of just like that time was very like not mainstream. All of these up and coming rappers were trying to make music videos, and then the editing style, of course, I tried to like match that. So it definitely gave a good push. Yeah. I used to make like trippy style tutorials back in the day.
Yeah. I definitely have seen that on your channel, where you try to emulate certain styles of like bigger people's, because like I'm assuming, I'm not like super into the space, but I do watch like the occasional music video and stuff from time to time, and you see the effects and different things that they have in there, and it's like like even in your space, like we're kind of all over the place with the way that we're attacking this, but even like on YouTube, for instance, right? Are there a lot of other people that are doing similar things to you where they're like taking different effects that they see in music videos and things like that, and then showing, maybe the up and comer that is filming, local rap music videos just in their communities, how to make something similar or emulate that?
There were definitely channels that would take music videos and break them down, but never really the people who were like doing them themselves. Like they usually like stayed behind the scenes from all that, you know? So there's a select few. There's a lot of really great editing channels that already existed.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of just like fit in between that niche of I'm not like just an everyday learn how to do something on an editing software. I'm kind of like in the between of like create some cool creative stuff, but learn the technical aspect of it. And I think it's kind of nice there because you can just try and tell people, hey, this is how I do this, but you don't need to do it this way. And I think that's the best thing about editing. It's like, this isn't a step-by-step guide on how to do it. This is like tool sets that you can take and do whatever you want with them, you know?
I think there's a lot of people right now that want to get, like they see YouTube, for instance, right? Or they see Instagram, they see all these platforms, and they want to get in there. They want to be an influencer. They want to have some sort of, provide some sort of value, right? At the end of the day, like much like you are to all these, aspiring video editors and filmographers and everything like that. And, it's, what would you say has been like the most important thing throughout your journey from 0 to like 250K so far?
In terms of growth, I think that the number one thing that I did, which I think rings true for YouTube especially, is just consistent uploading. So for me, my rule was I need to upload one thing every 3 days. And if I do that, then the ball's going to get rolling, And it's like the 80-20 rule. I'm not sure the exact like words behind that, but like 20% of the work you do is going to account for like 80% of the growth. So, I mean, you can make so many videos. And with the way the YouTube algorithm works, it's so weird how like one video might just pop off one day. One video might be stale as soon as you put it out and then blow up. One video you might think is, oh, I put so many hours into this. This is going to get so many views. And it's just like dead. So it's like, it feels like there's literally just like monkeys pulling levers behind it, honestly.
Yeah.
So
that's
just consistency.
Definitely. I think that's a thing that plagues a lot of people, especially when they get started maybe. I do a little bit of YouTube stuff now, and it's like there's almost no rhyme or reason to a lot of, things that happen sometimes. The only thing that I've seen, and maybe you can hit on this for your space specifically in your niche. The one thing that I've seen is that certain topics, obviously, certain like keywords and things like that are obviously going to do better because more people are searching for them, doing stuff like that. Have you ever, and maybe especially at first, but like, do you do any of that in what you're doing now, or are you trying to still acquire? Is most of your focus acquiring new people, or is it kind of like catering to the people that you currently have in your audience?
That's a good question. I think it's kind of like finding the balance of both. Like you want to post videos that get a lot of views because you feel like, okay, this is what people want to see, but at the same time, one of the best ways to grow and get new people in is by like taking the risk of exploring a new topic, exploring like a different editing software, exploring like 3D, something that's completely far off. But like you said, with the search rankings, that's one of the best ways to really get noticed whenever you don't have that initial push behind you, because whenever you have a lot of subscribers, you can put it out, it just gets caught in like the algorithm, it gets caught in the browse feed. But to find that initial kind of pull, you need people searching. And if you can search for something that you want to see, you don't see any videos about it, that's like the best way to know, okay, this is like something I can do.
Definitely, yeah. I've definitely done that before with certain things. It makes a lot of sense because it's almost like, once the trend starts to become like set in a way, then you're one of the first people to get in on that keyword or just in general that topic. I think that's definitely a good way to go. Wanted to ask a question for the people out there that are thinking about doing this, right? And we talked a little bit about like just the consistency is a huge thing. What would you say at first, especially now? Obviously, well, let's actually, this is the first question. How long ago did you start? When was your first video uploaded, would you say? How many years ago?
Probably about 3 years.
3 years ago.
Yeah, is when I started posting like the experimental camera cinematic. So not even like anywhere close, but those were the beginning seeds of it.
Gotcha. Okay, so like 3 years. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's definitely impressive growth. So for somebody that wants to get into something, regardless of really what niche, obviously it might vary from niche to niche, but what do you think? Do you think they need anything? Like, for instance, like you hear, I think a lot of people get hung up too in the equipment, in a sense, like the equipment that you need to do. Would you say that, like, what did you start your channel with? Do you think like today you need something incredibly fancy?
I mean, 90% of, maybe even like 99% of all my videos are filmed on a webcam. So that's all I use.
Yeah.
Like my first, like probably the first year of even doing YouTube, like from going from 0 to 10,000 subscribers, which I think is the first like big jump. All of that was filmed in like 720p, like cheap YouTube or cheap webcam in my dorm room where it was like the smallest space and I just stuffed like a little green screen behind my back and then keyed it out. So ugly quality, ugly audio. But the biggest thing for me, like the heart of the content is the idea. And that's what I think gives me the most like satisfaction is searching for good ideas that I think people will like, And of course, the equipment is a big part of it because that's what makes the viewing experience more enjoyable. So that's something you want to pay attention to. But the heart, I think, should always be the topic and how you can provide value to that person.
Gotcha. And as far as like, for instance, like credentials and getting started from that thing, like people that think that you have to go to school and like do all sorts of, videography classes and things like that, run it back to, you said that you went to CCAC and you were going to go to Slippery Rock. So what happened? Did you just transition out of school and go to this full time?
I did end up going to Slippery Rock. I think I went for maybe like a year, maybe 2 semesters.
Yeah.
I was going for cybersecurity.
Okay.
And at that point, that was when I started like getting into YouTube heavily. And the type of person I am, I'm very like, I get into like passionate thing. Like I'm very passionate about something, So if I find something that I'm very interested in, I'm gonna like always be thinking about that, like obsessively. So with video editing and with YouTube, I would be sitting in class and just thinking about what video I can upload. So just completely uninterested. And that kind of led into me just going home and thinking about it. And I think at that point, I posted something, was able to make money from it, and I dropped out from there. So
interesting. Well, that's a hell of a story because that's another thing, man. Like with college and everything like that, I think it's interesting that you were going for cybersecurity. Was that something that you were also passionate about, or like you were interested in to some degree?
I like the base interest, like to the point where I didn't dive into it enough to really know. Like I'm interested in coding and things, but not to the point where I was with YouTube. And going back to your question about the education of it, I never took any film learning classes whatsoever. Like everything I learned was just from Google search and YouTube tutorials. So my kind of thought processing behind it is I would find something that I like that interests me, and I would try and just find a tutorial that shows how to do it and then recreate it. And then if you're able to recreate something, then you can get to the point where you can either like change it, adapt it, or improve it. And then if you can get to the point where you can change, adapt, and improve, then eventually you can get to the point where you can fully just make something new, maybe behind that concept, or that's like my learning process for it.
And then also teach that to other people. That's like the final step. That's amazing. Yeah, I've started to implement something similar. Yeah, where you just kind of like learn something and then you implement it, like exactly like you said, and then you're able to share it with other people. I think that's just how we all continue to move forward, especially depending on, it doesn't even matter what niche it is. So yeah, definitely. So that I wanted to hit on this because I thought this was incredible. So you were going to Slippery Rock for a couple semesters and you were going to go for cybersecurity, and then you realized that wasn't the right path for you. You made some money from YouTube and stuff, which we should get into all that side of things. And you made some money, and then you said everything that you have learned basically so far, for the most part, I would say maybe a couple things here and there, but everything that you've learned so far has basically costed you nothing. I mean, that's a bad question. Like, it hasn't cost you any like money. Like, you didn't go to school for videography. You didn't take any like classes really too much or anything. So very close to zero, we'll say.
Yeah. Everything I learned in terms of like what I do now was 100% free. Just all free stuff. Yeah. Like I didn't even pay for any like side courses, although I do think there's a lot of really great info in that. Right. But in terms of like what I was learning for cybersecurity, I think that yes, it would have given me value. Like I think for everyone it's different, like some people follow whatever you're passionate in, drop out if it's the right circumstance, but for a lot of people, going to school is a great resource. And if I'd been into cybersecurity, I think, yeah, it would have been great value. But yeah, it was definitely tough because my mom is huge into education. She was the president of CCAC. So
wow.
I went there for the first 2 years. And I mean, it was just telling her, hey, I'm not going to do school anymore.
Yeah.
So, but she supports it now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always difficult. I mean, I know that for a fact too. Like I quit my job at the end of January and I've been doing the things that I'm doing, and it's kind of a shock to the system, I think, when especially with parents and people like that haven't done something like that before, or they just, everybody just kind of gets into one lane and kind of normally stays there. So when you hear something like that kind of goes off the other way, but obviously you've been successful, so can't really argue about that, right? The route that I was going with that was the fact that you have basically, obviously you've made money. I mean, you do this full time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Full time, or what do you categorize yourself as? Full time YouTuber and video creator, and video like producer and everything. Like I'm assuming you still do music videos and everything, right?
So I've reached the point kind of where I thought about I was doing a lot of music videos, editing, and I was also running a business behind the YouTube channel.
Right.
And the business behind the YouTube channel counts for like 90%, maybe even 95% of all money I make.
Okay.
So that's the main support. So I thought, I like creating these music videos, but why am I spending so much time and effort to create like such a small fraction of what I could make if I just put that same amount of time into creating things that I can monetize on the business behind YouTube. So YouTube only serves as financially, like I like creating the videos and I want to create the videos, but it serves primarily as marketing for me.
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
And even the music video jobs I got, all from my channel. I don't think anything was like word of mouth or like spreading through like Instagram. Like I would at first DM people and say like, hey, let's shoot a video and try and get that push. But vast majority of my clients, all just from finding me on YouTube.
Gotcha. So let's break this down then from like a everything that you have, branding, business, finance, like all that coalesces. I'm super interested in all of it, and I love talking to individuals like you that have obviously lived through it and have things set up already and actually are monetizing all that. So you have a YouTube channel, 250K subscribers. You have a company that I don't think we've dropped the name for yet, but I know what it is.
Media Monopoly.
Yeah. So and then you have, those are you like the business. Is that the business behind the YouTube in a sense?
Yes,
that's
sure.
Like your main business,
Yeah.
right? And then if somebody came up to you right now and asked you to do a music video, would you do that like under the Media Monopoly name? Like, is that who does the music videos, or is it just you as an individual doing a project?
Just me as an individual.
Okay.
I could have. I think if I was more into creating music videos and like really getting into that, I would put it under the like the Media Monopoly name.
Right.
But it's so time consuming to create these music videos because especially with the style that I'm kind of into, like people pick me because they wanted to see like crazy effects.
Right.
So for some of these videos, like I worked on one video for 72 hours straight at one
Holy
point.
hell.
Yeah, like sleep deprived, like on the brink of like death. And at the very end of it, like they just didn't give me credit for it. So they're like you run into stuff like that,
Yeah.
Like it's a very kind of like iffy place to be because someone can just take your name out of it and screw you over like that. So
Jeez.
Yeah.
They just paid you and just didn't give you credit.
Yeah, they ended up paying me. I've had people where it takes like months to pay me.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like understanding once I was into it. But I just thought about it like, do I want to go all into this or do I want to go all into like building the brand and then creating personal projects that I'm like passionate about and then putting that out there, working on that. So that's what I want to go into moving forward is less working on other projects that I'm not as interested in.
Yeah.
If someone comes along and they're like, hey, you want to do this with me? It's like this person, whatever. And I'm interested, I'd be like, sure. But I want to get more into things that interest me and then create content around that, create money, presets, whatever around that.
This is super interesting to me because here the way that I'm interpreting your path so far and kind of what you're saying is that you got into all this and you had a skill, right? You're always developing your skill, but you had a skill, you started developing it. And then as you showed off your skill to people, right, in a sense, like on YouTube and everything like that, people came to you and they said, hey, Max, we see that you can do X, Y, Z. We have a project for you. And now at that point, you engaged in a service. like you were in a service-based business in a sense, right? Whether it was Media Monopoly or yourself, a service-based project there for somebody. And you did some of those, and you had like you just had to deal with people in a sense, obviously, which is the reason that this is so interesting for me is because I'm kind of it's very similar to something that I've done where I started building websites and I start like doing websites for people, just like you started editing music videos, filming and editing music videos, and then you get to the point where you're like, I'm at the same point where it's like, this is fun, like I enjoy doing this, but at the same time, I think there's probably other ways that I can monetize this.
Where it's under your terms.
Yeah, and it's and you don't have to. Not like dealing with all clients is bad, but at the same time there are bad ones and
or ones where you're just not as interested.
Yeah, and it's like that's difficult. And then either you got to deal with the finance side of it with like getting paid, or like you said with accreditation of it for yourself, and then I don't know. It's very complex. I think service, the way that I categorize it is like you were service and now you're more product focused. Like So you, right now, your focus has turned into, like you said, like creating presets and things like that you sell via Media Monopoly. And that's kind of the route?
Yes, but at the same time, I never viewed the service as like, I'm doing this to make money. I always viewed the service as, I'm doing this because it'll give me more, the money is great, but it's going to give me exposure into like bigger, better things. Or it's something that I want to do, or it's something that I should do because it'll make me better. And I think that doing that client work with editing projects, it's like, it's the best way, because whenever you're doing this by yourself, there's no one telling you what to do. And I mean, that's a great thing. You have so much freedom in it. But whenever you have a deadline, I mean, it's stressful, but it forces you to like get shit done and like learn new stuff and upgrade in that way. So it served a great purpose. But again, at the point where it is like, I just didn't see the value in it in terms of, okay, I don't look at this for money. I don't look at this for support financially. I just look at it for those reasons. So can I push all the bullshit aside that comes with it and take that same kind of, I'm doing it for those reasons in a different way?
Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting outlook on it. And obviously there's definitely positives. I mean, you learn a lot from from working with clients and working on projects like that. And it's interesting because most of the time, at least in some of the experiences that I've had with other people that are doing what I would call like freelance work in a sense, like different projects, whether it be, editing or just like social media management, things like that, that's normally their bread and butter. And then they're trying to do something else on the side. With you and your path, did you have like other jobs while you were doing all of this? Or did you go all in just from the get-go?
The whole reason I was even able to, I think, drop out and do it full time is because of the business and selling presets. So that was the main push. Like, I think I had like 20 to 30,000 subscribers, and I dropped some digital asset pack, which can help editors save time and just give you something to put on there that you can work around and work on top of. And I made like, I think like $2,000 in like the first week of it. Yeah. And then I showed that, and I said, hey, look, I can make money doing this. And I'm also making a little bit of money from ad revenue, but it's like next to nothing. So if I take this, I add some of the service stuff, the client work on the side, then I mean, it's enough to pay for an apartment, get started,
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, can you explain like some of the products that you sell, just for instance, like so presets and things like that? I mean, obviously this might be not news to other people, but like for me especially, what are some of the benefits to having some of the different types of things that you guys are selling via Media Monopoly?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So for the digital assets, that's usually just kind of like the rough word, because there's so many different things that you can really kind of like shovel in there. The main thing is just saving people time, because like I said, editing and creating all this stuff, it's so time consuming, Definitely. So something that can save people time, but at the same time, something that can be flashy. So the main things that I have is digital presets for Adobe Premiere. So you can download these, you can import them into Premiere, and you can just drag it on your footage and it pops up and does whatever I created at the beginning. So maybe I'll think of an idea, I want to make this footage like flash this color, or like create some transition. You can do that all within Premiere and then like export it and try and create some like packs. So I try and just make one that's as creative as possible and like useful, and then put like a lot of time into it and then put it out there. And that's one thing I think a lot of people struggle with, is they see that you can make money from these like digital assets, so they're just trying to like push all of that. But the main thing that creates the sales is from building up the free information first, and that's always, I think, the most important part. It's not about like trying to just put out assets and sell them. It's about trying to build the community and like show yourself as a trustworthy source of like giving value, and then translate that into something I sell. So if I want to sell something, if I want to make something, or I want to make money off you, I want to make sure I'm providing more value than the price on that.
Mm-hmm. Where did you get that mindset from?
That's a really good question. I think it was the mindset comes from having that idea from the start of the channel. Like on this channel, I'm going to create content that people find value in. That's the main thing that got views in the first place. Like if you're thinking about, all right, I want to put this video out, but how can I get people to watch it? The number one thing that will always bring viewers in is just having value, something that they can see and be like, oh, that taught me something, or that's useful to me, so I'm going to like that. Even that's why the information space and tutorials is such an easier way, I think, to start going in. And even people who have followings just from doing some like creative thing or whatever, they create tutorials as well because it's easy clicks, because you're providing instant value. And you can give that value in other ways, like entertaining, like making people laugh. But if you just think of the ideas behind it, think of what do people want to see? What do I want to see? What can I make based off of that? Then I think there's a lot of power in that, definitely. Especially with selling things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot, and you see a lot of people do that. Like you said, you see a lot of people giving away what you would call like free information and everything like that, especially in this space, and then moving towards monetizing that in some manner. So that's interesting. How often right now would you say that you create presets? Is it like are you trying to do that are you trying to like make videos with ideas, giving like showing people how to do things, and then creating presets that are kind of like related to that and just pushing that out onto the store, or how's all that work?
Yeah, it's a mix. So for a lot of the presets, like whenever I'm in the creative process of what I'm going to do with it, I just look at some of my tutorials and say, I could create a preset out of this easily. I already showed you how to do the process. And I'll even say that in some of the like the showcases for the preset, I'll say, hey, this is a mix of just things I came up with. Things I came up with, things that I've shown you in the past. So you can pay money to save time, but you can even just go on my channel and make it yourself, So
interesting.
And in terms of how much I make from the presets, like how many I make, I put out 3 preset packs so far, and like one a year pretty much. And I'm trying to increase the volume of that. But going back to whenever you said like breaking down everything, it's not just preset packs. There's so many different film assets, photographer assets. Like you can create After Effects templates. You can create LUTs, which is just like LUTs. The color grading. That's like the biggest one.
That's the only word I know.
And then you can create. There's so many different things. Like there's so many things that you can create that people can use and save them time.
Interesting. And then you put all that up just on Media Monopoly. So let's dig into that a little bit. So when did you kind of start this idea of Media Monopoly? Like when was the beginning of the actual business? Was that like as you were getting the channel up and running, or how did all that go?
It actually started as a clothing company.
Really?
I think, I actually almost forgot that because it was such a failure. But
well, you could always pivot again and bring it in now.
Yeah, I had like the old Instagram on it, and we were trying to sell shirts. And then I think it kind of segued into just whatever I was doing at the time. Like I started creating those music videos and trying to work with these people, trying to be a video director. So it kind of was like the flag behind me, you know? And I could put my portfolio on there and just have like one website where people can go and like read about whatever, see prices and things like that. And then since I was linking that to my channel, whenever I started to sell the presets, I said, okay, just go here. And you can use it with Squarespace's built-in e-commerce. And it's better because before people started doing that, you don't see a lot of just like individual things where you can get assets. There's these big like company-owned websites. Like there's one called Video Hive. And there's one called, there's a few, but you go there and it's a bunch of people uploading their stuff. Right. And then the company takes almost like 20%.
Almost like Amazon.
Exactly. Yeah. So instead of taking that 20% off and trying to push that, I just have my own spot for it.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Do you think now are more people doing that now, like where they're having their own individual platforms? I think I've seen a couple.
Yes. So yeah, there's a lot of people who are definitely just making their own stuff, and I think that's good. You know, you can see it as like a kind of a threat, but like I said at the beginning, if you focus on the free content in the community and just building that stuff up first, I think that's always going to hold value. You'll always be able to make like sales over people who maybe just be pumping stuff out left and right, because you're taking the time to like really kind of build the trust and the knowledge with people.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask a question actually about the channel and more so the community that you've started to build. So you would think, I think a lot of people see the 250K number and they're like, well, that's a lot more than, you know, like what I have or what, you know, or whatever, like the, you know, where somebody else on the YouTube journey is in, right? And, you know, just consistency and growth and everything gets you there. What have you seen on the community aspect of it? Like, are there a lot of people? I think YouTube's interesting because you have subscribers, but that doesn't necessarily mean they might watch every video. They might, you know, this, that, and the other thing. So how do you see that? How do you see that going? Like your subscriber count related to how many views your videos get, related to how many people like engage with your content, and just like the community that you build. And we I think we mentioned before we went on air here, Discord is another big thing that you're trying to push now, which I just jumped on. We'll leave links to everything in the description. But like, how's the community aspect? Are you seeing familiar faces? How's it all going?
Yeah, so definitely seeing familiar faces, and I think this is different for every individual, every channel out there, because it depends on what content you're creating. So for me, I'm sort of, like I said, in between of that informational, but trying to show people to do cool stuff. So I don't feel like I'm really making like as close of a connection with people personally than say like someone who vlogs, you know?
Right.
And I think that's actually kind of comfortable for me because I don't have to really be worried about like just the deep kind of trying to like think about, oh, I want people to like this, I don't want people to like that. I can just put the information out there, you know, try and be positive, try and help people in the comments, and then if they like what I do from that, then they may support it. So yeah, it's kind of like it's like a little behind the scenes, you know? It's not as stressful. There's definitely a lot of YouTube creators out there where, you know, you could say one thing wrong or do something and you'll feel like the backlash.
Right.
But for me, it's just, I have my objective. I want to create something that people can have value from and just help you. And then hopefully you enjoy that or you like it.
Definitely, yeah. And obviously I've seen some of your videos. Like the way that you talk me through this is probably a selfish question on workflow of everything. Talk me through like how you go from idea to video in that whole sequence. So like, do you kind of figure out how to do everything first and then you run it back again through it? So you're like kind of like boom, 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 and then you can kind of just splice it all together. What's the general workflow?
So probably the biggest benefit for me and just keeping track of everything is writing down ideas. So I have just notebooks where I'll write things down that I need on hand, and I'll write down steps of how to do things. But even before that, I also try and write down my video ideas in a notepad on my computer. So I have like a database of just like, if I don't know what I want to make, I'll just go onto that notepad, and there's hundreds of different random ideas. Some of them probably horrible ideas. Some of them won't ever see the light of day. But if I need something, I can go to that kind of like computerized spot. So I have my idea. I research into it. Like usually I'll see and I'll be like, okay, I can make a video out of this because I know how to do that, or I can figure out how to do that. So I'll try it. Sometimes I'll even not have tried to do that until right before I start recording the video. So I'll see something, I'll be like, okay, I'm pretty sure I can know how to do that. I'll sit down, I'll do it, and then I'll just start recording the tutorial.
Gotcha. And then it kind of just goes from there because then you're able to just, obviously, one of the nice things I think about filming video editing tutorials is that obviously you're very, from the get-go, it's kind of like inherent that you're very good at video editing. So I guess that whole process just comes very quickly throughout there. And
yeah, I mean, I don't even think I'm too, like, because there's a lot of people who will criticize the editing, you know?
Really?
And like, yeah, I mean, I don't even think I'm that as crisp with the audio, because for a lot of these tutorials, I'm just trying to get it out quickly so it doesn't take a lot of days for me to produce it.
Right.
So, I mean, some of them have just like rough audio cuts that I'm trying to improve on, but in terms of like effects, I think I have a vast knowledge of how to pull off different things and like tracking. But in terms of like keeping everything clean and professional, I'm definitely like not. There's people way better than me.
Well, I mean, it's a process, you know.
Yeah.
So I had two questions there. Specifically, you mentioned like tracking and effects and everything. How do you I have very limited knowledge of this. How do you get better at something like that? Like how is like for tracking things, and like I see these effects that are in, maybe I should just watch more of your videos like for things like that. But like is that something that's relatively easy? Like maybe an example of something better. Like I've seen a lot of YouTubers where they'll like open a door, for instance, and then on the other side of it's like another scene.
Yeah.
How do you have to do that every single frame of that and track like the whole opening in that? Or I mean, that's a bad example probably, but
so there's different tools for doing different stuff. Like you can take a pen tool and just hand by hand mask it out, and then just like frame by frame, but it's gonna look pretty choppy. So there's ways where you can track moving footage, and then there's also ways. There's a tool called Rotoscoping, and it's like a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah.
But it definitely saves a lot of time. You kind of draw like a rough outline over whatever you want to mask out, and then it uses AI to like try and figure out what you're trying to do. And then you just go in and you like kind of like mark in or mark out whatever you want to be in the mask. So yeah, it's not the most fun thing to do, but it's awesome.
That's always one of the things that I think about, because going back to the discussion earlier with something like that, right? Like if somebody comes to you and they have like a big project, you know, maybe even in the past, right? And you said you spent like 72 hours on something. You do all that work and, you know, you make the money or whatever, but like that's so difficult for me to justify when it's like, especially when you get screwed over on the credit type thing, right? And then you get the money, but it's like, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of effort for something. And I'm not saying that like working hard is bad, but it's like you got to make sure that I think you've done a nice job in pivoting and realizing, well, maybe this isn't the best use of my time.
Exactly. And for me, it's like if I do put in that amount of time, it's because I probably like I enjoyed it, you know, like, and I think the work speaks from it too. Like, I think that video got a lot of like praise whenever I put it out myself. And for me, that was kind of like, okay, well, I put all this work into it. I kind of got screwed over, but at least like people see it as, okay, people like it, you know?
Yeah.
And it helped me level up and learn more. And then that pivots into like being able to teach more, being able to make more things, being able to make more money off it and support myself. So it definitely was a benefit. But like you said, like just finding the spot. And you don't have to do full on, okay, I'm not going to do client work. You could even just pick and choose. And I did that for a long time. You know, like pick and choose the projects you want to work, and then work on building other stuff on the side to allow you to do that.
Definitely. Yeah. So right now, focusing on, you know, marketing through the YouTube channel and the business and like digital assets and everything, is Media Monopoly just you?
Yes. Actually, my friend, one of my best friends who I grew up with, he does the exact same thing as me, but it's all vocal presets. So it's the same kind of business model where we were in the exact same dorm or same off-campus house at Slippery Rock, and I started making video tutorials, and then he started making the vocal tutorials. His name's Crab Lord, if anyone wants to look that up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've definitely seen some of his stuff. I don't think I've met him in person, but I've definitely seen some of his stuff.
Yeah, so he puts stuff under the Media Monopoly name, but technically it's completely like separate entities. So everything from, like I do everything from the website, from anything that's under Media Monopoly is pretty much me.
Gotcha. Okay, but it's kind of like a joint thing in some of the products and things like that. Any like audio stuff. So like that's vocal and things like that. So I gotcha. Interesting. So you kind of have, that's interesting though, because you can kind of have like obviously cater to more audiences in a way there. If it's like they also want to do different things like specifically, I guess that's for like singing and things like that, right? And just vocals for like music videos or music for, I don't know.
Yeah, it's nice because a lot of the people who watch, since a lot of it is music video centered, it's like artists, rappers who are trying to just create their own music videos. So yeah, they might find like the vocal preset stuff useful, but it's 100% like not tied together, you know? Like he could post it on a different site, I could post it on a different site. It would still probably be the same. We were just under the same banner.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is a more of like a branding question and something that I think a lot of people end up having to deal with, whether they, you know, anticipate it or not. So you have Max Novak as like your personal brand, and then you have Media Monopoly as like the entity and the business that you're kind of flowing everything through, the website, stuff like that. Have you done anything? Have you thought about like how you are building them up? Have you done anything specifically for like even as simply as like Max Novak? So you have an Instagram, you have Twitter, you have this, that, the other thing, and then over on Media Monopoly, like is that its own thing when it comes to marketing that, or how have you worked all that?
I just try and tie the names in together. So at the beginning of every single one of my videos, my intro, it doesn't say Max Novak, it says Media Monopoly. Or it says like Media Monopoly digital tools for creatives.
Gotcha.
And I just put that as my little intro. So just keeping that name in people's heads, like when they click on my video, they kind of associate that it's like it's linked with me.
Mm-hmm.
So what else? I put the name in the description. I put it in my Instagram bio, but other than that, like not too much.
It doesn't have its own like social presence. It just the website.
I probably should. Honestly, it's probably a good idea.
I always like to have the branding conversations because I guess I'm probably just a nerd when it comes to it. I love separation, but I love separation with like links, if that makes sense, right? So they're different entities. Like everything that I do is one thing, everything that Fueled by Progress does is another thing. But at the same time, obviously they're somehow connected, right? Because things like that. So and I was kind of gonna parlay that into the next kind of question is like moving forward. Like, do you see, like have you thought about any plans for moving forward for Media Monopoly, for yourself, for your channel? Are you going to do anything? Do you have any like plans in store for maybe not like obviously joining them, but like just the next steps, right? Like I think you have a page on your website, like you're trying to expand and things like that. So like is there things like kind of in the pipeline?
Oh yeah, definitely. And touching on what you said about keeping them separate and then kind of building into that.
Yeah.
So there's a guy named Jacob Owens, and he's kind of like the golden standard of how to like be financially successful doing video things.
Yeah.
And he does exactly that. He has like one company, Tropic Color, and then he has he also has real estate where he has film things going on there and makes money from that. And then he has his own like production, and he's very good at separating those things. And then in terms of like building and what I can do to kind of further that, it's a lot of things that he's doing now, but of course I want to put it in like my own spin. So I want to also get into real estate like he's doing, and I think that real estate's a good way just to invest in general, and maybe try and tie some sort of like editing or make that a film location like he does.
So he's investing in real estate. Gotcha.
And then another thing is just expanding what kind of digital assets are out there. So like I said earlier, with all the different things that you can do, I want to make it so everyone who goes on my site, they can find so many different things that are going to be able to help them and just increase the volume of what I'm putting out while still keeping that like value in mind. So I think this year especially, my girlfriend actually helps me now. She's been making like LUTs and stuff. So
nice.
So I've been trying to pay her from that and just try and include more people who can help make different things that I can put out.
Gotcha.
Grow in that way.
Cool. So that's an interesting thing too. Like, was that something that she liked before you met, or did she like, she learned?
I have to like teach her and hold her hand through it. But, yeah, she's getting the hang of it,
Nice. Yeah. Building the team is a fun part. Yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten deep into that yet, but,
I think it's difficult.
Yeah. Definitely.
There's some people who are very like better at it than others, like being able to like see the strengths in it. And a lot of it is trust too, like trusting people to do it in the way you envision stuff. So yeah, it's something that I want to do, but as of right now, I'm just trying to do as much as I can by myself.
Yeah, certainly. Have you had, well, maybe not, I don't know, like how many, like have you had a lot of inquiries? Have you had any test subjects other than like your girlfriend as far as like bringing people onto the team? Like what would you say so far has been like maybe your pain points? Obviously, I know the big one for me, and just like you said yourself, is relinquishing some of the responsibility, because like we're building this shit ourselves, so we're gonna do as much as we can, and we're gonna treat it like it's our baby in a sense.
Yeah.
So handing that off to other people, I know that can be difficult. But have you had any other experience with other people or anything?
Yeah, I actually started working with the guy who does Adobe coding, and that's been a really great experience. He's a nice guy, and I think that's like probably the biggest thing that makes it like it was successful is because he was an easy person to work with, and just kind of floating ideas off of each other, and then just the idea was strong behind it. So the places where it's failed before is like I try and bring some people on to help make these things, but I never give them enough direction on like what I want to do with it, you know, because it's still like in development. But for the coding part, we work together to create. So going back with the presets, people just drag and drop them from their effects panel, but there's also ways where you can code kind of these nice professional windows, and it can pop into the workspace. And you can also build in like a lot of different tools into that. So he created this extension, and I said it just wants to have a list of different animations. So I paid an animator to create all these different line animations. And I took all these line animations, I gave them to him, and he put them in this nice window. And you can click like a glow button, you can click like color changer, you can click like randomizer, and then you can choose the animation you want in your footage, and it'll have the glow with the color, it'll have the randomization without you having to add that manually. So it's nice. I think that's probably like the most useful tool that we created, and I just actually paid another animator to add on to that, and we've been trying to like put out updates that people can get for that.
Interesting. So all of that, was that sold as just like one digital asset at first? Like
yes, it was just I called it like the Animation Wizard extension window or something.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So you had that, and then people bought that obviously, and now you have updates. So it's like 2.0 that people could also like buy to add on.
Yeah. So the first version, it didn't have. I think you could just choose glow, and it didn't have as many animations. So in the update, it gives you more of those little random tools coded in, and then if you want, you can pay extra to add more animations, and it'll like preload them in.
Interesting. This is wild. So how do you manage? It's obviously this part is mostly just you as far as like the administration and the operation of all that. So how did you manage? Obviously, you put it on the website. You have like the the description and everything and all that. How do you manage the actual sale of it? Obviously, it's via Squarespace and the e-commerce platform they have. You do all that. Have you ever, I think inherently, maybe not with all industries, but like anytime you're selling a product, occasionally maybe you'll have people that are not satisfied. Have you ever had people that are not satisfied with the stuff that you give them?
Yes, for the most part, it's been actually better than I expected.
Yeah.
But I have a little infrastructure that I set up. So I'm not sure if this is some third-party plugin. I looked up like Squarespace plugins. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is, but it's like a chat window. And it's on the home page, or I think it's on just every page of the site in the bottom right.
Yeah.
And you can click that, and it's one of those things where it feels like you're talking to a real person, but you're not.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's just an information field for what the issue is and like common things that I need. So it'll say, what is your issue? What is your email? What is your order number? And 90% of all the issues and this is probably the biggest reason, this is probably the worst thing the number one thing I don't like about Squarespace. They can't get their own downloads back. They need to send me their order number, and then I have to like manually, I can click a button, but I have to search it and then click resend digital goods. So for something like Shopify, you can just go back on your old link and you have like 5 downloads. So most of it is just sending people their download links again, because you change computer, change hard drive, whatever. Sometimes people will message me like, oh, I can't get this installed, I can't get it to the work. And by the time I even like start writing back the fix or like, what's your issue? They'll say, oh, I fixed it.
Yeah.
And then there's people who there are issues because Adobe is changing and updating. Sometimes like a random version of Adobe will be weird with like importing. Like I think for the newest thing we put out, Adobe 2019, like one of the old versions, it wouldn't let you import. So just little things like that where you have to find a workaround.
Gotcha. Interesting. But by and large, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. If all else fails, I'll just give them a refund.
Yeah. How many times have you had to do that, roughly?
Maybe like 20 maximum over like 3 years, maybe less than that.
Yeah. That's always, I think anybody listening would probably think that those are like minute details. But honestly, when you start to get into it, it's like nobody told you that you were going to have to deal with that necessarily. I mean, like you might have known subconsciously, like, oh, well, yeah, I've returned shit to like a store before, right? So
you have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, it's like those are the things that are always interesting to come across and I think to talk about, because nobody, I don't know if many people like really realize that is going to be a reality when you're actually doing it. So yeah, that's really funny. But yeah, man, doing a lot of great stuff here, man. What do you think? I know I kind of already asked it before, but like as far as like maybe even like because we're just approaching the new year here, what's like kind of 2021 going to look like? Do you think for the channel and for Media Monopoly?
So I want to do a lot of new stuff. So my past few uploads, um, I've been recording on like a better camera. So I said I've been doing everything on a webcam so far, and I want to just increase the quality. So I have a different camera set up, and I want to record whenever I'm talking there. Instead of me just floating on your screen, I want to have it nice and professional. And I think for a lot of people, if you see like nice audio, if you have nice audio quality, or you see like a nice set in the background, good quality, people will subscribe just based off that. You know, like it's something they're interested in, looks professional, subscribe.
Yeah.
So even that can bring in a lot. But other than just upgrading the quality, I want to bring in a lot more ideas that I think are going to be more relevant going forward. So I want to work with. I've been getting more into 3D, and that's difficult because it's breaking away from just the editing. Sorry.
You good?
It's breaking away from the editing basis. You know, like you use Adobe Premiere to create like your cuts, and you can create effects from that. And then you want to get more into it, you can use After Effects. But then if you want to take an idea in your head and fully like make something out of it, then you use 3D. And there's so much you can do with that even I try and just like incorporate a little bit into like my After Effects tutorials. Be like, hey, you can do this with 3D because it's cool, you know? So I want to make more 3D tutorials, and I want to use Unreal Engine, which is a free 3D software. People use it to make video games, but it's also being used a lot more in virtual production. So in The Mandalorian, instead of using green screens, they have these high definition LED screens. They set it up with Unreal Engine, and you can do so much. You can have like complete environments with realistic lighting that's real time, not like keyed in and tracked, all with just Unreal Engine. You can create virtual cameras. So if I have a 3D character in 3D, I can use like a VR controller and have it like a real camera, and I can like be in my room, like pointing it at the walls with no one there. But in the 3D software, it's like I'm realistically controlling the camera in 3D. So there's a lot you can do with it.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard a lot about The Mandalorian, but I haven't seen any of that. But that's really crazy. Like instead of the green screen, it's like
It's
the
all
real
just
world.
LEDs. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you can take like an iPad, and with the slider, like you can have someone, like say you're doing like some commercial shoot sitting on a motorcycle, push the slider and it goes just from night to day and the lighting changes. So I think in the next couple of years you're going to see that. And the main thing that the devs behind it, because Unreal Engine was purchased by Epic Games, who owns Fortnite.
Yeah.
And they're trying to take all this software and the infrastructure they have and get it into the hands of like indie developers. And then once it trickles down there, my whole thing is getting into the hands of like the average Joe, like the person who wants to do it themselves.
Right.
You know, and then you can create a job out of that, or you can get a job, or you can do some passion project. You can do whatever you want with it, you know? So that's my job, taking it from the top and just everyday person kind of introducing them in.
Interesting, yeah. So Unreal Engine is totally free, but it's for Adobe.
No, it's completely separate.
Oh, it's just a completely separate program.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I saw this. I think it was one of your videos. Yeah, because like you taught me about the NVIDIA broadcast. I've used that on streams. That's dope.
Yeah,
I
that
love
thing's
this free
great.
shit.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, AI, that's one big thing that's going to be changing. Like you see it with NVIDIA broadcast, you see it with Photoshop. Photoshop put out these like neural filters where there's like style transfer, but you can make someone look old by like changing a slider.
Yeah.
You can colorize photos.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a lot more useful AI tools in video.
Yeah. And there was another thing that you had. I don't know. I guess it might be related to 3D. Maybe. It was a character creator.
Yeah.
Right?
So that ties in with Epic Games, and that's something that I think is super exciting because I think like I said, whenever I want to learn something, I just start with what interests me. And what interested me always was like, okay, I see people creating all these cool 3D characters. How do I create a 3D character? And it's pretty difficult because there's like video editing, like film, 3D is, you can do so many different things with it, you know? So there's people who their entire job is to sculpt 3D characters. And it's very similar to like sculpting in real life. You use these sculpting programs and you kind of just create like the likeness of a person. And then there's people who take it all the way from the workflow of taking that character to animating it. So with Character Creator, it's that thing where it's like it's trickling down from the top. So the company Reallusion, they made it so there's a plugin for Character Creator. You can take a picture of somebody's face, upload it into here, and it'll create a 3D character just like that, like from their headshot. So I made a video where I just took a headshot. I think it was like an iPhone picture of me. Yep. I put it into here, and it's like pretty good looking 3D thing. And then from there, you can animate it. I can do whatever. Yeah. There's people who are like virtual YouTubers now where they have like an avatar. They use motion capture, and they're like talking in like an avatar sense. So there's so much that people will be able to like branch off from that.
That's great. Yeah, honestly, I looked into that because I thought that was super cool. I mean, I don't know necessarily what application I would use it in, but even if you had like a video of yourself, like you said, the whole YouTube channel, obviously that's one thing, but like a whole, like a video where you're animated, your avatar is, kind of makes you like a little video game. Is that, how does that work? That's a separate thing. Is that paid? Is that a paid thing, or is that a free tool as well? The Character Creator
that's paid, but the way I see it is, so the beginning of my channel started as music videos. So if a lot of you are subscribed to watch music video things and you're trying to make music videos, trying to make money from it, if you pay $400 for this software or that software, think about how much money you can make from your clients. That gives you that, because you have that ability now.
Absolutely. It's an investment in your business. Yeah,
exactly.
In your tools.
Like if everyone in your city has a camera, they're shooting these videos, they're using these effects, learn a little bit of 3D or change your norm, and you can make so much money from it, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on there in that 3D space. I'm interested to see kind of where it all goes, and with that, because I don't know, especially like video games and stuff. I think I mean, that's obviously a huge portion of it. Did I see that you want to make a video game?
Yeah. So because Unreal Engine is also used for video games, you can definitely like take a lot of those tools, and it's called blueprints now. Instead of having to write out straight code, you can it's node based, so you can connect these boxes with each other, and it's like it's coding the coding, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes it easier. It's kind of like website building in Squarespace. So yeah, it's definitely something I want to look into, but it's not something I'm like actively like really doing. But I definitely want to incorporate some of it in maybe future videos.
Yeah. So you don't have to actually code the website. You can use like nodes and stuff. I've been in, like we mentioned again, I think off air. I use DaVinci, so I know Fusion has like those node-based things or whatever. Is it like that then, sort of?
Yeah, just taking boxes that represent things and just connecting them.
Interesting. I might have to look into that just as a fun thing to do. I don't know. Well, man, this has been great. I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things. I know you have a lot of things, a lot of great growth so far in the first 3 years.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see what's to come, especially this year with all the crazy stuff happening with 3D, and then like everything that you're kind of trying to put out with just continued growth on the channel and the Media Monopoly. Hopefully we have a lot of video editors that this gets out to that hear about you, because always excited to kind of pass that forward.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, like I said before, I'm kind of like behind the scenes. I'm not like as involved as other YouTubers, so it's great to have like a chance to talk about it. And yeah, it's nice. I love a lot of what you're doing too, because you're putting out like a lot of content where even if it's just talking about something, I think what I said about value, like that resonates with people, you know?
Certainly.
So yeah, I'm definitely watching. I like seeing what you're doing. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're just trying to continue. Like I think again, like you said with that mindset, the value, it is just it's a business model that you do that for a period of time, and then you try to monetize it. I just think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm happy to see that is one of your driving forces there. Real quick, I ask everybody final 3 questions that I think kind of ties everything up, and they're relatively straightforward. I mean, there's nothing crazy about them. The first one is, who do you think throughout everything you've done, whether it's in the editing space or anything like that, who do you think have been your top 3 influences? And they could be, again, it could be anybody. It could be people that you know personally. It could be people that are indirectly. It could be people that you never met. But like if you had to narrow it down to 3, again, it's tough because we all have so many influences on our life. But just in general, like who do you think the top 3 people that have molded you into the person that you are right now?
I think number one influence is just my mom, because I think she was just like the one person who like really instilled like a lot of the good values that I try and like follow. And I have like huge respect. I love my mom.
Yeah.
And then number 2, in terms of like whenever I got my start and inspiring me to pick up a camera, try and be a video director or an editor, and like get into the work, get into the field. Cole Bennett, another person who I think a lot of people who, if you're watching from what I do, you probably know who that is. So shout out to him. He makes some really cool stuff. And then in terms of like influence on the financial sense, I dropped his name earlier too, Jacob Owens. Look into him. He creates some really awesome stuff. Even if you don't know anything about video editing or film, his business models and just how he like carries himself is something that I think a lot of people can learn from.
Gotcha. Dope. Great influences there, obviously. Mix of people that you know in your life, and then also people that you've. That's a funny thing nowadays. Like you can get so much from people that you've never know. You know, like never personally know. That's awesome. So, second question is, what is your? It might change over time, but what is your best life advice that you give somebody right now? Like somebody comes up to you, doesn't have to be related to one specific thing, but just something that resonates with you. What's your best life advice?
That is a good one. I think that I would say just have fun and just follow things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're doing something you're passionate about, you're always going to be going in the right direction. And there's ways where you can make money from it or do whatever. But I think that's the number one key. Just follow whatever you're passionate about in life. Be yourself. Have fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, certainly. Definitely think that is terrific advice. Something that I know that I've been following, and I think everybody would be it would be great advice for everybody to follow. So, okay. Well, last one is we talked about a lot of stuff here, but the one thing that I always want to make sure that I do. Anybody that again, thank you so much for sitting down. Anybody that sits down across from me here in the studio, I always want to make sure that any audience that we have that doesn't know about what you're doing knows. So this is the time. If you want to promote anything or plug anything specifically, I'll have all the links in the description for everybody, but if you want to kind of like run through it one more time.
Yeah, Max Novak on YouTube, and then if you want to check out the business side of things, Media Monopoly _ Max Novak on Instagram, I think.
Sweet. Yeah. But like I said, direct links to everything. Make sure you go check Max out. Man, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. I had a wonderful time. We'll have to have you back here sometime in 2021 or beyond when the channel's at over 1 million. You get that play button. Did you get a play button already?
I have a silver one.
Dope,
which is cool.
Man. Waiting for that. Is it gold at 1 million?
Yeah, gold at 1 million, and it's like the big one.
Diamond at 10 million, I think, or something like that.
Hopefully, when I'm 60, it'll reach.
Dude, the growth is amazing, man. Keep it up.
Thank you.
But again, thank you so much, Max. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Fueled by Progress with my guest, Max Novak. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Thank you.